Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting here in Watson Lake on March 7th, 2023. We have quite a few things on the agenda, so we'll jump right into it. Can I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Hanchar and Councillor Slager. All in favor? Carried. Next up, adopt the draft minutes from the regular meeting of February 21st, 2023.
I'll adopt the draft minutes for the meeting of February 21st, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Burtis.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Hanchar. Any questions or comments?
Not for me.
No, all in favor? Carried. Motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $729,580.63.
Make a motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $729,580.63.
Thank you, Councillor Slager.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Burtis. Questions, comments?
Can we just go over those, obviously, very large purchases?
The larger ones?
Yeah, there's one for 367,329. And there's another one here.
It's probably the final tally for the light or at the
Yeah.
center.
Okay, yeah, so your worship, the one for 167,117 is a progress payment on the lighting upgrades at the rec center. The next big one, Surrey Insurance, which is former Caprice CMW, that's our insurance for the municipality.
Is that for one, like that's for the year, obviously?
Yes.
Okay.
329,590. And is there any other?
Maybe the one underneath it.
Yeah, our Great Northern, that for 92,230, that is the change room upgrades progress.
Thank you.
And then the one below that, that's the sign for the new municipal building, correct?
Is correct.
Thank you. I might that one as well.
Yeah, the builder, it's for freight 519. And the one above it is for the actual sign.
Mhm.
Okay. Any more questions?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Carried. Okay, so next on our agenda, number 4, we have with us the Yukon Government Lands Branch and a chunk of community services, as well as I see Minister Mostyn online. Welcome. Happy to have you here. Thanks for making the drive. We're excited that you're here. I hope that you're bringing us good news. I'm going to leave it to you.
Yeah.
Maybe actually,
Is everybody on the meeting?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great,
Maybe you could just introduce everybody.
Okay, well, thanks for having us here tonight. I'm Damian Burns, the Assistant Deputy Minister of Community Development. To my right,
My name is Nancy Maher. I'm Senior Advisor at Supervision on the team.
Kevin Fisher, I'm a Community Project Manager with. And then online, we have Matt King, our Deputy Minister.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you.
And we have Minister Richard Mostyn, Minister of Community Services.
Hey, everybody. Great to see you tonight.
Hi, Mr. Mostyn. Welcome. Nice to see you again.
And so what we thought we do is come down here and visit Watson Lake. It's always beautiful to be down here, especially when the sun is shining like it is. But I think I'll just turn it right over to Minister Mostyn to give us a bit of an update on the work we've been conducting in the department and partners on Francis Allen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mayor Urban, and thank you very much, Damian. I just want the room to know that Damian was in a meeting at around, this morning with me, and now lo and behold, there he is in Watson Lake. So he really does make the move. I'd love, it's a pretty amazing schedule the team at CS keeps. And if you were to go to Europe and say, yeah, I was in a meeting at 11 o'clock this morning, 11:30 this morning, and then I drove 450 or 500 kilometers to my next meeting. Their jaws would drop to the floor. It's amazing. So how we do business in this little territory of ours. I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you very much for the invite. I've heard that there's a need for land development within the town of Watson Lake, and I know how this has been a priority for the council. Now we've been playing tag, and I really am very sorry we haven't connected. I think the last time I was due to come down to the opening of your new community building, I was unfortunately, I got called into the hospital and had to miss that one. So I do apologize for this, but I am going to get to Watson Lake and I will make it up to the town. And I've always enjoyed my time down there, come down there for decades, and it's always a great visit. And I'm sorry I haven't been down there in a long time. I really do appreciate your patience. And I can understand why you might be a little thin, but I do promise to get down there first opportunity. So I can say today that a benefit agreement has been signed with the Liard First Nation. The Francis Avenue project will move forward.
Okay.
So the signing of this, and I did phone you, Mayor Urban, on the 13th of February to tell you this. I believe you were on vacation or something. I left a message for you, but we haven't connected there either. But I did call you a few weeks ago to let you know that this is coming. The signing of this agreement marks a new way of working together, and it not only advances reconciliation and builds capacity, but also will help meet the housing needs of the whole community in Watson Lake. We are working on a public announcement on this soon. I have a news release that's been drafted. I really do want to get this out. I know that our officials have been working on this while it's going on. We don't want to delay it. So I think it's gone to YESIB as well. So often these things work in tandem, but we want to get it going. I know how important this has been for your community, and it's been a priority of mine and of the departments to get it unstuck. So I'm really happy we've been able to do that. So as part of this community project, Community Services will manage the Francis Avenue project. We'll see 43 new serviced residential lots for your community. Once complete, 24 of these lots will be available to the public. One is owned by the town of Watson Lake, and 18 lots will be transferred to the Liard First Nation. As well, we know that Watson Lake has identified federal infrastructure funding through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program that will support the construction of a new lift station for this project. Community Services is developing these lots based on the town of Watson Lake's official community plan, which identified the area as a priority for future residential developments. So the next stages will be steps for this project. We're managing the project through the YESIB process. As I've said, that's already started. We'll address any questions or concerns that arise. We're going to publicly tender the new lift station and lot development, surface works, and underground utilities through 2 separate tenders. And we're going to award the construction contracts from the public tenders. And then Community Services will undertake management of the project. And throughout the project, we'll have ongoing information sharing about the project amongst the 3 parties: the Yukon government, the Liard First Nation, the town of Watson Lake. So we're hoping to actually advertise the 2 tenders this spring. The project will be fully underway shortly thereafter. Community Services, including the Land Development Branch and Community Affairs, will continue to work with you as we move forward in partnership on this. I'm looking forward to working together with Watson Lake to advance this project over the coming year. And we're happy to answer any questions you have on the specifics of the project. That's what Damien and team are doing down there. So that's what I have to tell you. I'm really happy we can bring this to Watson Lake. I think it's a really good development. I know how much you've been craving lots. I had the tour with Cam down there and the whole bit, taking me through that whole area about a little bit more than a year ago. So I know what we're talking about. I'm really happy to get it going. So any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Minister Mostyn. That is excellent news. We're happy to hear some progress there. I too was in Whitehorse this morning at 10 o'clock in a meeting, so I understand the travel thing. And I do apologize. I missed your phone call because yes, I was on holiday. So there were 6 kids running around me in circles and I didn't think it was a good time to take that call. So I apologize. I tried to just text and reach out to you, but my apologies for that.
No, that's totally fine.
But yes, and for as far as you coming down, we are having the AGM here in May. So hopefully you'll be down for that. AYC AGM. So there'll be a good turnout for that. And again, yeah, thank you. We're you know, like you said, we've been pushing for these lots for a long time. You know, they've been kind of on the map as long as I've been on council, which is almost 9 years now. So for us to actually finally get some progress on it, it's exciting, you know, and trying to be diligent about it. So, and Cam's been working really hard at it and council's excited. So I might just leave the floor open to council if there's any more questions. Councilor Slager?
There's a, Mr. Moxon, there's a recent article in CBC News North about the reallocating of funds in this year's budget from the resident or rural residential lots to Whitehorse lots, basically. Will that impact this project going forward? Like all things that we kind of perceive to be happening, those will still take place?
Yeah, absolutely. I really get a bit frustrated by the by some of this idle speculation that happens. The team at CS and myself have made lot development a priority, where we know what we can spend in a year, and we've altered our budget accordingly. But we knew, you know, so here I am taking questions or having CBC query me and having the stuff from AYC on the radio. I didn't even get a call from AYC to have any conversation about it. And yet I have this news release and I know that this is going forward and I can't say anything about it at the time. So, you know, it's this disconnect, right? And a simple phone call would really clear things up, but I didn't get such calls. So this stuff gets into the media, causes all sorts of problems and concerns for you. I can assure you the project is well in hand and we want to go ahead with it. I want to go ahead with it. The department wants to go ahead with it. We know how important it is to Watson Lake. So no, it's wrong. Okay, we're going ahead with the projects. We know what projects can get out and we want to make sure we fund those. So.
Good.
I really appreciate that.
When can we expect the lots to be available?
I'm going to let the department go ahead and because that comes down to how long it takes to develop the actual land and get all the infrastructure in place. I have an idea, but I'll let Damien and Co give you a more precise.
I'll just
better
jump in and say that, Kevin, you have a presentation prepared for us? Is that correct?
Not so much a presentation, but certainly can answer any questions.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's more like Kevin's here to answer questions on the technical side. We were
Okay.
prepared to provide a total presentation, but I think to address that question, I know that the project is going to get underway with some urgency right away this spring. There's going to be several sets of tenders that come out. Land clearing, the road development, the infrastructure underground, the lift station. So there's quite a few moving pieces. YESAB is the phase that we're in now. So we're anticipating the phase of YESAB where we're gathering information from the community. I think where you guys can step in is provide your comments and support of this type of project. We know that with the Liard First Nation being on board, we anticipate their support as well on this project, but it'd be important to move through that phase quickly and get on with the rest of the work development. I think I'll leave it to Kevin maybe to describe a few more details. The goal is to do the bulk of that development this construction season, but there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of infrastructure built. There's risks in the tenders, risks in the timelines with contractors, but our goal is to proceed with urgency. Super excited, 43 lots. It's a big development in rural Yukon and it's a transformative project for the town of Watson Lake. So we want to treat it with urgency. I don't want to make a commitment, but our goal is to complete the bulk of construction this season.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that. So I think Damien mentioned, we are in seeking use or we're about to enter the seeking stage of ESSO, so that will allow opportunities for public comment. And then once we get through that seeking use, it's generally a 2-week period. It could be extended slightly. The issuing those 2 tenders, one for the lift station and the municipal service installation block development works. And so we are anticipating a fall completion date. It will be a little bit of an aggressive construction schedule. However, it's relatively a simple project. These are existing surveyed lots. There is water infrastructure, there is water mains started right away now in Francis Ave. So it's just adding the sewer infrastructure and certainly the lot services to the frontage of the lots. And we are kind of in somewhat uncertain times just in terms of supply chain issues. So we really will know a little bit better once we have those tenders awarded and understand the contractor's construction schedule and we can find some materials and that sort of thing. But certainly our aim is to finish the bulk of the work or all of the lot development work by the fall. We anticipate likely the commissioning of the lift station to trail on into the spring, which I don't think should be too much of an issue because the lots will be available. If lot purchasers want to purchase, they'll have time over the winter to start planning that, and likely they won't need the actual lift station until the development happens, which will be likely in the summer of.
So what's the game plan if the tenders come in over budget?
So if the tenders come over budget, we have allowed for some contingency that's been approved in the budget. So basically, I have to see how much over budget and take it from there. But we have kind of accounted for some kind of unknowns based on kind of uncertain times with the economic status right now. So there is some cushion built into that. That we're hoping to get some good bids get out before some of the other construction contracts are awarded.
It's good to hear.
That's good. That's a good question.
That has been an issue for a few of our contracts, few of our procurements that have been going out. We've been handed back lots because of the cost of everything going up. So it is a rising concern and rising costs. So.
A question for the council, if I may. What sort of tolerance do you have in Watson Lake for overages? Like what would be an acceptable percentage to be over in a contract in this environment for Watson Lake? And where would you draw the line?
But we don't even know.
Yeah,
We don't
well,
even know what your budget is, Minister.
yeah.
I'm not asking about this specific I'm saying a contract of any contract. Let's say it's gone. Do you draw a line at 20%, 25%, 30%, 40%, 50%? Where do you start to say, enough's enough, we've got to do something different at the town of Watson Lake?
Well, last year we put out for the public waste drop-off area in the budget, the estimates were in the 420 range, 430 range. And we got no bids during the tender period for the second go around. We received a price after closing for 690. So council decided to defer it and consulted with everybody that pulled the tender documents. And we put it back out based on the response from all the construction firms as to when they wanted the timing for it to go out. So we put it out and we only received two bids on closing. And one was 1.1 million, the other one was 1.2 on a project that was class C at 430. So, you know, prices have climbed dramatically. And when you look at even our in-ground infrastructure project that IDB is working on right now, the prices have gone absolutely ridiculous, like almost doubled already. So yeah, it's hard to say, but where do you draw the line, right?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I'm just looking for what you're, and I totally understand that these are the problems, right? Like you were up 50%, you went out, back out, and you get it at, what is 100 and 200%, 300% increase? Ridiculous.
Would we be required to pick up the overage?
At what? No, I don't think that's how it works.
Oh, that's the other part of my question. Okay, okay.
Depending on certain types of different like federal funding, pots that we're using, there may be different rules, but I think at this point, it's us taking that on in partnership. That you guys and then the First Nation has certain benefit agreements built into that construction. So I think, there is a lot of risks. There's risk received across lots of sectors and lots of different construction projects across the territory. But, like I said, the goal is to drive hard and get the bulk of the construction done, knowing the risks that we just talked about. And depending on some of those sort of finalization schedules, we would hope that those lots will be for sale for the next construction season. So that. And there'll be a role for the municipality as well in the final stages of approving the specs of the project and the infrastructure. And I find that is always an important piece of the project that we do city of Whitefish as well. So the municipality needs to see the infrastructure and accept that as well. And needs to happen in this construction. It's important construction.
Yeah.
Given the benefits agreement with Elephant, is that, does it go further than just hiring their development corporations such as First Cast or Ion Kachika for like sole sourcing of lots or land for the road construction, or are you able to give out any further details of what those benefits may be or what they would look like?
Well, I think so. We're looking to make this announcement soon and let you guys be part of that announcement. I think we'll be reaching out to Mayor Urban for a quote perhaps around some of this release, even in the next day or two. So the main benefit that's been a part of that for the First Nation is the 18 of 43 lots. So these 18 lots were identified as infill protected lands. A lot longer than Chris has been on council. Back in the 80s, they were put on, I think so. I think we've known those lots for some time in the community here. Like Kevin said, these are surveyed lots. So the main benefit in that agreement is those 18 lots. Okay. There is some work for clearing the lots, vegetation, in the contract that will be offered and providing the granular materials and the landscape. But the main construction tender will be publicly tendered. And we want to get the best value for money on those, given that the ultimate cost of developing these lots do factor into the lot sale prices. So we'll still have an open market competitive process on those, and that keep the costs as low as possible.
That'll be the next biggest concern, I think, that we have, because being able to sell those again, not without reaching a price that's really unattainable to build here, a lot in Whitehorse that might go for $120,000 or $100,000 is out of reach for a lot of people in Watson Lake. So it's a risk, there's got to be a little bit lower than that. So it's I guess that's where your overages play into, right, Minister Mostyn? Like, we don't want to go over our budget so that we get a product that we can't resell. So I don't know exactly what that number is without seeing any numbers, obviously, but there's some risk there.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's demand for them, and I think that they'll be taken. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are decisions we make through all of our land processes. Given that we have, those options in the Lands Act. It's important to consider the cost as we move forward. So at this point, it's just about getting the standard out there and see what happens, and what we can manage in that. This is the business.
We should ask Kevin to present on just how those lots are going to be. Like, they're not going to be treed lots. It's going to be
Cleared, leveled, raised, balanced. Sure.
Yeah,
Give us some description of those lots for us.
those lots, certainly the lots on Francis Ave are quite undulating terrain rate. So, to manage overall drainage for subdivision, lots do need to be graded to basically drain towards Francis Ave for the ditching collection, and then go off to the north, drainage chains. So in order to grade those lots, we require full clearing of the lots. There's fairly significant clearing. We ideally hope to try to maintain some of the vegetation and the maiden portions where there could be some vegetation, so just help with attractiveness of the lots and privacy for future lot owners. But based on the undulating terrain, we do anticipate the majority of the lots to be cleared in order to grade grading requirements there.
So they're gonna use, for detail, they're gonna slope towards the existing houses or away from the existing houses.
North is that way.
Yeah, they're gonna go towards the back.
Back
A little bit
corner.
of mix, and our engineers actually still kind of tweaking the design, but the northern side of Francis Ave, those will drain primarily to the back lane.
Okay.
And then drain off either side. Go to 7th Ave, 7th Street and 6th Street. And then kind of the western half of the southern side of Francis Ave, the southern lots. The west side are all going to drain back to the lane, and then out 7th Ave. And then the east side actually going to drain to Francis. It's all based on topography and where water's typically going to flow in terms of drainage.
And just on that design, like there'll be several interactions that happen officially with the municipality and our branch. I think I won't try and describe the whole process, but we'll get into sort of an agreement with development. You'll have different opportunities at different phases to approve designs and to approve that ultimate construction.
Yeah, to see some progress first, I think is the key for us, you know, like it's just to see this getting started is huge and. You
Long
know,
time coming.
yeah, exactly. So we're excited for that step. And once those things happen, that's great that we can be a part of it. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really been quite some time since we've seen the development of this scale and looking. It's pretty exciting to have it down here. Part of it.
I am curious to because we have some difficulties communicating with Elephant as well. So I'm kind of curious to know what they are hoping to see come out of that development, you know, if they're ready to build or if they're going to be putting houses immediately on it, or if they're, you know, if there's anything like that you could share with us, that would be great.
I mean, I'm not aware of anything right off the bat, but I would highly encourage you guys to work closely with them as well. I would say we offer to hold some community meetings here through the design process. I think the better engagement we can, you know, kind of create each other and the opportunities for that.
Kevin, you been into that or our plan approach? Just that the lots that we are transferring to First Nation, they are really simple lots, so they basically have, it's up to their discretion to develop those. What I'm hearing is that there is an emphasis in housing, and that is kind of the primary plan for these lots, but there's nothing that dictates them from doing something different. Resale or just because they are.
Yeah. I don't think resale falls into their lots, but I don't know how that land set aside works because it's not set aside, right?
Well,
It's.
I think under your worship, under the agreement that set aside is gone now, they're
Yeah.
actually titled lots.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that. Okay.
So they're currently set aside, that expires in August. And this agreement that the government just signed with our First Nation just gives them that kind of ability to let that existing
interim protected lands lapse, knowing that we do have an agreement that once development is complete, those 18 lots can be transferred to the First Nation as some set of lots. And I would just add, like, in addition to the interactions that we'll have around the development, design, construction, that we're gonna have with the municipality as your developer. You guys, you know, have the bylaw making processes and tools you have in your to find what's going on.
When you say 18 lots are for LFN, how is that gonna be staggered up? Like how are all their lots gonna be in one space? Or or do we have that discretion to decide whose lots are where, or is that?
Those
like
lots have
PG,
been
or-
started for actually like a few decades, I
Oh,
think, in
okay.
terms of the survey and the selections that the elephant had made for interim protected lands that ultimately formed 18 lots of this transfer. So there is maps that have been out there for quite a few years that show that, but it's kind of a staggered approach from what I've seen. I'm sure you have maps available to you now, Kevin, but there's groupings of 2 lots that are the Art First Nation to be transferred to the Art First Nation, and then 2 lots government, 2 lots the First Nation, basically staggered that throughout both 7 lots of Francis. 5 lots that are being developed on 6th Street, those are all and I think, you know, what we're going to be able to see now is like, you know, there's been a certain amount of, you know, kind of keeping a lot of this information a little bit closer as that negotiation process unfolded between government fund and regional relations branch and nation. But now that we have that benefit agreement, we've given you guys this sort of advance notice that this announcement will be coming. But now we're going to really undertake to work closely with you guys on that design and to that development process. So I think you'll, you know, see a real opportunity to be as you develop.
I don't know, this is just a thought that I've been thinking about. So we have infrastructure happening ourselves. You have infrastructure happening. They're 2 different projects, but just thinking, when you think of dollars, we have somebody here doing sewer, wouldn't it not be easy to tie in with them because they're already here to potentially provide that sewer? I mean, it's just a thought, right? When you think of dollars and having people here, bringing people here, manpower. I don't know, they're 2 different projects, but maybe there's some merging. I'm not sure.
Guess that falls into the private contractor's hands. If they're here working on a project, then they can see some opportunity to buy it into the second opportunity. If they're already here, then hopefully that can help with budgeting. You know, that it'll come out because they're separate contracts. So if there's people here doing that one, then they could potentially get in on the second one. And that's why it's urgent that those contracts get out, because we have the same ones going out for our in-ground infrastructure downtown. So hopefully they're in tandem and people recognize that.
And that is key, and we are working with infrastructure development grants to coordinate those, certainly because the Francis Ave project is really a small project compared to the infrastructure upgrades that development branch is planning. So the ideal scenario would be that the infrastructure development branch tender goes out first, that gets awarded, and then just that successful contractor is a little bit more likely to put in a better bid on the Francis Ave development. It's already more here, so we are trying to align those 2 tenders.
Yeah.
It's on the screen there showing the way the lots are laid out.
Thank you.
And I think those lots were probably put there since incorporation, now that I'm thinking about it, which was 1984.
1984.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 80s were stuck in.
Yeah.
So does everybody see that online as well? We have the map of the subdivision now.
Sorry, I didn't want to pull up on screen share or something.
Oh, that's fine, just so that online they're aware that we're looking at that map now on the screen. There you go, that's the layout. So which of those lots are existing where they have a civic address there? Are those already existing lots? You know?
That's on the Art Avenue.
Okay.
And the town owned lot is this last, is the last one here, 601. Francis is the town owned one. And from what I can see, it was probably set aside as a playground lot, because there's no playgrounds in that end. That's the only reason I could see that it was a type
And
of
which,
lot.
sorry, in relation to this, where's that lift station?
The lift station is gonna be, sorry online, but lift station is gonna be right here where my cursor is,
Oh, okay.
at the end of the yard and on Sixth.
So will those 6 lots be for sale then, too?
These lots are title lots here, yes, there
Okay.
are 5 of them. 5 lots. Yeah,
Okay,
we'll have 5 title.
okay.
And are the lots going to be like just for anything? Like, we have trailer lots, we have
Those are
other
residential.
lots.
There's one that's residential.
There, you build, you can build. You don't have to build a trailer, okay.
We don't.
Currently.
Yes.
And they're 65 by 130 in case you're wondering.
65 over there.
One unique thing about this development is that it is within the aquifer protection area for the town of Watson Lake. So back in 2019, there was a source water protection plan done, identified this area as an aquifer protection area. So there are some special measures just during construction, like managing fuel, just a little bit heightened, just because of this area does provide the source of drinking water in the town. And as part of that, because we're out of new development here, we are going to be working with the town on developing a fuel smart plan for the area. So essentially that's looking at primarily related to heat fuel storage on site and making sure that that's managed appropriately to basically mitigate impacts to the aquifer and the waters.
Great.
So I think that was what we wanted to come down and visit you guys and talk about. I would just maybe turn it over to Mr. Mawson if he had any last words on the announcement of this project.
No, I think that, I just want to say I'm excited for Watson Lake. I think this is a huge opportunity. I'm really happy to be a part of it. I'm looking forward to seeing how the tenders come in. Of course, I'll manage that process. But it sounds like we've got a plan forward that could get you lots as early as the fall. So we'll see how that plays out. There's lots going on, but let's keep the glass half full. Let's focus on the positive and see how this plays out.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Minister Mostyn. Glad you could be a part of it as well. We've been waiting a long time, so I didn't want to see another community services minister, honestly. I'm glad it's you.
You're very kind. That's great. Well, I'm glad it's you too. And I really, we've talked about this a lot, and I'm really, I think throughout rural Yukon, I hope we can emulate this in other areas. So we'll see how it all goes.
Great, and we'll definitely see you in May, right? Yeah, awesome. Or not sooner. Great. Okay, thank you, Minister Mostyn. So we do have a bit more on the council agenda. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to add at this point?
No, I think that was what I was hoping to come down for.
Yeah.
And look forward to meeting with Cam in the morning. Yeah, it's been great to see you all this evening. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for making the trip just for that news. We appreciate it. And yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so maybe I can come join you guys in the morning for coffee and. Okay, great. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Mostyn,
you.
thank you. I want to clap, but we're not done the meeting yet. All right. Very exciting news. Get to be a part of. Now you can buy a house. Hey, it's actually, might be empty lots by the time you leave.
What the minister didn't know was that there's a Peter in the room who was commending me on how fast you were driving.
I know.
Your vehicles are all chipped anyway.
Yeah,
For your speed.
I might get a little.
We might.
Three vehicles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought this was at 7, and then when I checked, it's at 6.
Yeah, thanks, folks.
Thanks
Yeah,
for you. Take care. I know.
All right, number 5 on the agenda. Constable?
Constable.
No, Sergeant, I'm sorry.
Demotion, but
If you want to put it back to the constable, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Easier, right?
100%.
So what do you got for us today?
Okay, so we sent out the email that you were there. I hope that everybody got a chance to look at it. That's, not a whole bunch of stuff to do with the report. Falling down. To February of last year. The biggest ones we're kind of getting coming to the year end now, so we're looking at the annual performance plan and what our community priorities are going to be for the next year. So a lot changing. So with that in mind, like the previous years, I talked through them, I guess this community preservation. That's with the elephant. I don't know how it was with yourselves here. Offender management as well as traffic safety and visibility, mainly along the highway. So we're kind of looking at those as well this year, but we wanted to see what this mayor council wanted to look at this year.
Great. Well, thank you. We missed our opportunity last year for whatever reason, staffing, whatever it may be, but we're happy to have that. And I'm sure, let's turn it over to council, see if they have any comments or any ideas they want to see some focus on.
In keeping with the visibility aspect there. Tourism being one of the main drivers for me here. And we've had different people come into the schools and talk to the kids and say, you know, what would be something you'd like to see in the community that would make you feel more safe, more welcoming, more at ease, I guess. And some of the kids were like, streetlights. I was like, oh, you're right up in the heart. But other than streetlights, they're saying that you know, being harassed when they leave either the bank or the store or tags for money was one of the things that they mentioned. And I don't know how heavy-handed you want to be with that, but it's just a presence perhaps. You know what I mean? Like there's underlying factors contribute to that, so you don't want to be like charged at the same time that as someone else could be, maybe.
Yeah, just presence downtown, right? Like walking around or.
Yeah, you know, but like,
Just-
yeah,
Just a presence, sort of more of a presence, like, who was the last sergeant, Kent?
No, we got.
Aaron,
Aaron, Kent was before.
Yeah, he used to do
They did
Walk
walk patrol.
walk patrol from here, I think, all the way down to the Watson Lake Motors and then back, sort of thing. I don't know, just to keep people aware of their presence, I guess,
Yeah, well, the other thing they did too was they did do a walk on the boardwalk.
Oh, okay.
Because there was the migration was down to the boardwalk and drinking on the.
And it was making people that were trying to utilize that trail really uncomfortable, especially, you know, like women that were alone, you know, there was people, you know, intoxicated in the bushes, and I think that's really like.
Intimidating.
And not necessarily people from this town. So, you know, we have visitors that are trying to utilize their trail system, and then you have these, you know, things coming out of the bushes there. It's.
People of which we know,
Yeah.
which don't bother us, but
Yeah.
when there are people you know, and you see them and they're kind of staggering and definitely intoxicated, then
Yeah.
you would turn the other way and, you know, it'd be discouraging. We are trying to develop our trail system, especially here around Y Lake, and we want to utilize it as much as possible. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think, I don't know. Frankly, I think that the people that are causing these problems, if they're recognized and acknowledged, and you know who these people are, it can be controlled very easily. Because I would say there's 20 people that are regularly more of a disturbance, living and walking and migrating, that are, you know, if they're acknowledged and they're treated with some respect and acknowledged to the point where they're, hey, go somewhere else, be somewhere else, do something else, they will do it. But it's a matter of just making sure that that's there. and then following orders, and just creating somewhere for them to be, if there's a spot that is less likely or less disturbing that they can go to. I don't know where that spot is, but
And that's the question, so where do we get them to go, right?
yeah,
Because I know things have changed over the years of taking people to drug tanking. It's something that I've had to educate a few times this last week, especially when we have mental health crisis. Itself is not the answer for people with mental health, right?
Yeah.
And I've reached out to the members here and they all believe the same thing, like they need assistance, right? So where do we take them? 100% visibility and talking to them, we're all about that.
Yeah.
Everybody that is working right now is really good at doing, I'm glad to see that we be on calls with them and see them take that time to talk to people. The question is like, where do we take them next? Like, where can we get them to go? And that's a good, and that's for all of us to kind of think of, right? I mean, we're always trying to see, especially when it's my area, who's else can we to, who can look after you, make sure you're somewhere safe.
Right.
So who's taking those next extra steps right now? For visibility, like with the boardwalk and downtown, are you guys seeing an increase like during summer months, or is it kind of like spots right now? Just summer months?
summer for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's just when the weather's nice and everybody's out and about and the tourists are out and about, then they kind of intertwine and start asking for money and, become a bit more of a nuisance. It's definitely the summer. And I think that's most important for like our downtown, locals, I think for the most part recognize the problem and can manage it themselves. Not always, but a better portion of them. So it's the summer that is difficult, right?
We want people to leave here with like a
Good.
positive experience and tell people, down the highway,
Yeah.
good things.
Even at
not that they
the
were.
hotels and stuff, but I like what you're saying about a location, there has to be some alternative to send them, to send these folks, because that is the key problem, is that they want to come back to where they're comfortable, right? And they just keep coming back, and it doesn't matter how rude or what you tell them or how you treat them. It doesn't matter. I can give you a cup of coffee, send you in the cab, I'll be back 10 minutes later. So I can respect the fact that we need to find or come up with a better solution, but that is, I think, where we're trying to get at, and so if we keep that in mind and work on that together, that'd be great. Okay. I don't know if LFN has that in there. They probably have that same discussion, because it's a lot of their own relatives that they're dealing with on a regular basis that are a problem. So
what we're finding, what we're working with LFN right now, so it's a restorative justice pre-charge pilot project that we're doing. And this is for the whole territory that we're trying to headline here. A lot of that is when we're seeing like problem fines, like who are causing disservice, mischiefs, where it's not a violent offense. We're looking at going through that process first. And May Stewart's been doing a phenomenal job with her and her team with taking those extra steps with them. So we have one actually going on Friday, this Friday regarding impaired driving. So it's kind of to see how this is kind of being impacted at a different approach instead of going charge, because it's just revolving. It'll look at different ways, right? So
that's great.
I like the idea of what Thomas was saying, but also I think the one lady was looking for people to come and present as careers to the kids to see if they wanted to go down that kind of career path. So I don't know if that's something that you guys have been a part of.
yeah, we actually got an email this last week regarding that. I know I volunteered, we're just waiting for the actual date for that. And then myself, and I believe conservation is actually been talks as well, going down there and doing presentations. We also have a recruiting corporal here in Watson Lake, based out of our office. So we have them stationed here, which is actually beneficial for us for anyone who's interested in applying, including for like the Indigenous Police and Youth Academy, so she can give the information and help out with the applications for that process too. So, and she's been willing, she's voiced that she's willing to help with those priorities as well and to share her experiences.
Oh, good, thank you.
I think that this is probably like an obvious one, but drug enforcement. Obviously, this town has some problems. And so I would like to see efforts continue in that area and all the things that go along with that drug trade in this town, harm reduction and stuff. Yeah, I would like to see that continue.
My comment along with that would be some repeat offenders. We've had some come and go pretty regularly that are some bad apples. I mean,
How managed to get back here somehow.
yeah, sometimes they find some comfort in wherever Watson Lake is and they manage to get back. So There was a couple that we dealt with in the past that were, you know, difficult ones. I can't remember which
We
ones they
used to
were.
be able, we used to, every now and again, be able to provide feedback to whom, do you remember? Was it?
We used
Report?
to send supply a generic letter to go to the Crown in support of,
Whether or not we wanted that person back in this community?
well, we couldn't say they couldn't come back, but it was trying to deter the release and maybe put conditions on to restrict that behavior. So, but of course, we have to be careful how we do that. So that's why it was a generic that the town of Watson Lake does not support drug use and repeat offenders and then, you know, that. So,
Yeah, and we're looking at,
Right.
like, I'll give an example. So we had a robbery this last month, and this person, a prolific offender here, very well known across the territories. Multiple charges pending, and we applied for an unendorsed warrant, which is to hold them in custody. That's a the amount of offenses and how serious this one was. And the judge gave it back and endorsed warrant, which was basically a catch and release. Here's the paperwork, order the next court date. It's very difficult right now, especially since 2019, they had changes to the criminal code where we have to explain the seriousness of hold someone in custody. They don't have a flavor anymore to hold people in custody. So I'm trying to liaise with the Yukon Crown Council. I've already talked to Fort Nelson Crown Council about this because I'm trying to have it where there's certain prolific offenders where we're seeing them, they get released, and within a month they're doing like 20, 30 offenses, and we're like, okay, well, we can't just let them continue on this path.
Mhm.
So it is something that we're definitely working on, and I agree with you, like there's certain people that need that extra attention.
Mhm.
The benefit here is that members that we have working, like most juniors 5-year service, so they know how to write these and they know how to present them, which is good. It's just we're just trying to get other people to get on our side for them. So it is a struggle that we have.
Well, if there's any endorsement or, you know, some, if we can help you,
Yeah, like we're happy to provide that.
yeah, absolutely.
And I guess the last thing, and you said this already, forgive me, but the last thing I've heard just from the community is speeding in the school zones.
Students,
So I think some enforcement around that are
Priority.
working on our signage
Yeah,
there, you know, but
and your presence downtown during the busy season, you know, like the highway just drives me crazy. Literally with people that just pass right through and don't slow down, you know. I've always said that I wanted to have a stoplight just so people would stop, you know, and slow down.
yeah, some people go through really fast.
Yeah,
Do.
yeah, so. And I know that fake car doesn't really work, but I thought it worked sometimes.
I know, it would be good.
didn't someone get that big car?
They-
I mean, it's at the-
They shut it
it's in the
down.
the garage.
Because they were so sick and tired of seeing it there.
Did they what?
The one they, like, they cut the posts and they pushed it over because they're so tired of like,
Oh,
every time they, I don't know who it was, but you could tell like, they're like, I'm gonna get rid of this. And even myself, I helped put it there and every now and then I'm like, oh, geez, oh yeah, sorry, I put that there.
So we'll keep on the crime reduction aspect and the traffic on there. The communication relationship, how seen it been improving the last year, or has it been the same way it's been the last 6-7 years?
I think last year we trailed off a little.
Okay.
Between attachment and ourselves, just for whatever reason, staffing or.
they didn't
You
have
know,
people
they
there.
had some staffing
Yeah.
issues and stuff, but you being here and this process is already in hold. So if we can keep it up and see what kind of progress there is on those ideas, that'd be awesome. Great. We'd really appreciate that. Also, I think personally, it's great to hear, like I was saying earlier, it's tough for us to communicate with Elephant all the time. And if there's feedback that we can hear from them as much as anybody that we can back up, you know, we can be involved in, or, you know, if there's anything we should know as well that they're working on, so we can help you.
Yeah.
That'd be great too.
You guys meet with LFN regularly or?
So I've been trying to get in with chief and council there for quite some time. I have a meeting next week. May Stewart's been my main point of contact, mainly through the pilot project, but a lot of it is through chief and council is through her. So she's been my main point of contact. I meet with her. It was once a week for a while, and now it's like once every 2 weeks. And that's how we're kind of keeping our meetings at that.
So are you the one hosting the meetings?
I'm going over to her office, yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is because if you're the one hosting them, then you can invite whoever you want. And then that, I feel like, helps us to be able to, because you can invite us then, and then them, and then it allows us then to have that, you know, all of that meeting group time, whereas when we're inviting and it's not being reciprocated, then it just helps us to sort of band together. And maybe in doing that, they can see the value in us being a part of those discussions.
Has there been in the past, community consultative groups between with Elephant and Watson Lake?
Not really. Not really.
There's never been the appetite
No.
from the other side to do it. And sorry, your worship, first.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Where it gets a little complicated, right, is because under the Art First Nation has an agreement with Canada where 3 of the positions are under a community tripartite agreement, which is LFN, Yukon, and Canada for 3 of those positions. So really LFN gets to dictate what 3 positions in the detachment do. And then one other position at the detachment is a BC position. So it gets really complicated, but LFN can really steer the bus in certain directions for the RCMP. So it's always been doing that dance. When those positions were originally established, the tripartite, they were supposed to be surplus. No, sorry, there's 4. They were supposed to be surplus to the initial detachment strength. And at the time that agreement was signed, there was 9 members in Watson Lake. So by signing that agreement, there should actually be 13 positions in Watson. But that didn't happen, and it will never happen. So, but yeah, LFN, they can set priorities above us because of the fact that that's the same thing sitting on the selection committee for the Sardis position or whoever. They trump us because of the fact that those positions, they're in the guiding seat for doing that. But
What year did that start again?
it would have been started in 92 or 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can say like with talking to them so far, like the priorities are exactly in line with yourselves. Like it's funny to see because I mean, they're all seeing the same issues. The only drive that's different would be the RG project, and that was directly from Ottawa. So we were just selected it and maybe volunteered to take it on here because we felt it would be beneficial for the community. May and them have agreed to like take on for any, this goes for not just LFN members, but it's also for like Watson Lake members, there are community members here. So as long as the offense is happening in the Yukon, it falls under her umbrella and she's willing to take on anything through that process. So we're not just limited just to the Art First Nation, it's for everybody who's in our jurisdiction. So it is amazing to see that. It's just coming to, I agree with you, like to have us all together, I think would be beneficial as a whole. And I would even, reach out to even have like fire and ambulance, all, we're all dealing with the same people in one way or another. So thank you.
Any more comments?
For me, thank you.
Okay.
I wish you're on number 1 agenda instead of 5. Huh?
But all right. Yeah, so like other than that, if there's Ken's my phone number, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Ken knows we're in the process of getting a new recruiter here. That's going to be taking over a position that's been vacant. It's a soft vacancy. So we're trying to fill that by creating another position for that new recruit so that they can be trained, and then eventually when that person goes to that spot, right away. So there's a lot of movements. The issues are with everybody else. We're dealing with housing. So we're trying to figure that out right now, and that's kind of where we're at right now. But yeah.
So we're all in the same pot. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming, and yeah, we'll definitely see you around.
Absolutely. Hopefully not an addiction.
Hopefully not. I'll help you get out. I can't promise.
He'll offer you a new shovel.
Oh, we're gonna do shovel off Amazon. I'm supposed to be here tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There.
Not sir.
Yeah.
Got your gray shirt on. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's a rule, I guess. You can't say sir.
All right.
Gray shirts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
She
thing.
worked as an officer, works for a living. The white shirt is the officer that are appointed by the one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, everybody good?
Sure.
So next on the agenda is CAO Lockwood and your CAO report.
Thank you, your worship. Welcome back, your worship.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be back.
Yes, so,
What? Said it with a straight face.
yeah. I've been receipt of a letter from Johnson Elementary.
Mhm.
They're looking to, I'll just read it. I'm writing on behalf of Johnson Elementary School. We'd love to utilize the recreation center for a school-wide event. We'd like to book out the complex for an entire day. However, as a nonprofit public school, the cost of utilizing the facility on a cost per activity basis is extremely challenging. This upcoming rental is not date specific, as we would like to be open to discussions about user fees for the school and see if an agreement can be created officially. In years past, we have held an agreement with the town of Watson Lake to encompassed us using the recreational facility at no cost or a limited cost, and the town of Watson Lake using the school facilities when needed. It would be beneficial to the children in the community if we could revisit this reciprocal agreement. We are unsure when the agreement ended, but it was in the last 5 years and was not formally announced to the school that we can find. We are excited to build our recreation programming as COVID has been hard on our children. Years of limited contact and closed facilities have drastically affected the physical and mental fitness of our students. It's from Carolee Smith and Mr. Pills. But I can tell you, I've been in this chair now only a couple months shy of 6 years, and this agreement has not been, there's been no agreement in the whole time I've been here.
So your knowledge,
Well,
knowledge, yeah.
yeah, I haven't seen it at all. And there's no paperwork that I've come across anywhere in the 6 years. So it's,
So. Sorry if you're not done.
no. So I'm just looking to see, I do think we need to utilize the facility. We're paying our staff to be there and it's sitting empty. So my thoughts are it needs to be used and used responsibly for everyone. But anyways, I'll leave it to council, your worship, to decide where we're at.
Go ahead.
My question is just, did they just not use it now? Or if they are using the facility now, what is the arrangement currently? Are they just paying? And who's paying?
Well, they have been paying for the events that they've been doing.
And so this is an ongoing reciprocal agreement that they're seeking, not just a one-off for one event.
That is correct.
Okay.
At some point, there must have been, because I've been teaching for 17 years now. Whoa. Anyway. And we used to walk down to use the swimming pool. Like with classes and stuff like that, and we were never charged. When you'd bring your class down for their 45 minutes in the pool, that was, I can never remember collecting fees or going to the principal for money to go and do so. And we just went, there was I think it was just like, it was the town's, it was free.
From what you recall, or whoever paid that bill, you wasn't
Like-
as a teacher.
There was never any mention in any staff meeting about fees being collected, or even the high school as a high school student. Or no, rec center was built after I was in high school. When we were taking kids there. I don't know, it's always been, you want to use it, great. And it's always been a class or two at a time, either going bowling. But to the best of my knowledge, it's always been free.
I do know, your worship, that LFM has paid for some things through their education department, but I don't know exact details. But I do think it is an opportunity to utilize a facility that have open and
Well, that's what
paying the
it,
expenses in it.
well, that's what it's for. That's
Yeah.
what it's there for. And we don't want to, we're not here to make money on recreation. Right?
Yep.
But I think that we could utilize this situation to go to the Board of Education, because I thought for several of our services that the Board of Education or that the Department of Education should be involved with the municipality in, you know, paying for some of these services that we provide. You know, we can't foot the bill for everything. You know, we wanted them to use the Northern Light Center. They want to use our pool. We want to use our rec center. There should be some reciprocal cost.
Maybe
like
it could just be like a,
some costs there of some payment of some form. You know, and if there was a general payment to say, hey, Johnson Elementary School would like to use your facilities for X amount of time, what's that gonna cost? And we look for a flat rate for the use of.
Yeah,
all of our
it doesn't have to be like,
specific,
yeah, like a crazy amount,
but I mean, something.
something.
Could be like a monthly rate, you know, that we charge, and then they have access provided it's available, you know, potentially.
like annual.
Could we think about writing a letter to the Department of Ed requesting such a thing? And specifically, you could mention the grade 5 science curriculum, which deals, a lot of it deals with space. And of course, in the Northern Light Center, there is a thing on Mars. There's a couple of different videos that they have in their collection already that I know have been shown.
Yeah.
Again, the bowling, curling, ice rink.
So how about with that, I'll work with administration and we'll ask them for all of these things and then. And you can reply to Ms. Smith and Mr. Bills in saying that we would like to endeavor in some cost sharing of some sort with you to allow this to happen. We want to support this and we will look to, you know, tap into Yukon government money. Department of Ed, whatever that might be.
Yukon First Nation.
Should they be under the
For
new?
Yukon First Nation education.
It's through the new school board.
Yeah.
So we'll CC and we'll communicate with everybody in one letter with
They
them.
give a dollar figure in mind, or just like, what do you have available?
And
Would that be like an MO?
Yeah.
Is that what that would be?
Yes,
And
Could
yeah,
be,
because
yeah.
your worship, some things like the Northern Light Center, of course, there'd be extra staff wages that we'd have to schedule around those type of things, right? Because it's not a facility that's new. In the school winter season, it's not like we have somebody there. So those are things that were a little bit of money coming in to help offset those, or at least.
You're not.
I would just say like we could open a little earlier during the school year so that they could use it, you know, and not maybe staff for those specific reasons.
Can we maybe look at what the other communities do as far as like their, the schools and their rec centers?
Mhm.
And see what's up?
Mhm.
Or maybe
Mhm.
if they have a good way of doing it, we can.
I don't know,
Follow
with
suit.
Seahill, when the kids go, the kids have to pay.
But it's a
So-
prorated rate. like
No, I'm
if-
just saying, I know,
yeah,
but the
yeah,
kids pay every time they go,
Yeah.
they do bring some money and they have to pay, and it's a certain amount, and they have to pay for their rentals and they have to pay for the lift. Even though they have ski passes, they still have to pay through the school, so, I mean, there is definitely, you know, other areas
Not
that
part
are
of the stuff in the
providing.
town.
Yeah, that's a different.
That's like if you go to eat at Ag rather than my lunch program, you have to pay for your wings.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, there are other agencies in town that are actually pay for that service, so.
All right.
So if it's okay, I'll work with administration and we come up with a letter for the
Excellent.
Department of Education
Thank
to
you.
see what they can come up with and we can write a letter and I'll make sure you all see before it goes anywhere.
But I agree with Lauren, it would be nice to see what other municipalities are doing.
Another letter for Tiffany to write.
Yeah, Josh, when do you leave Sundays?
CA Lockwood, is there anything else for your report?
Yeah. Sorry, I got us off track there, but, so we did have another meeting about the in-ground infrastructure project for this year. We're looking at tenders going out, in 3 weeks. And the big stumbling block has been the increase in construction estimates. So we've had to tweak some of the project into different phases to try and get. So we can work into the funding that's available. Yukon government is reaching back out to Ottawa to bring down funding. And so that revised ISIP application will be going out next week. But stage 1, which was originally forecast to be in the $7 to $9 million mark, has now, as of today, jumped up to 21.8 million.
So like, this is crazy. There's. Sorry if you want me to do this after, but I just. Frustrated by that, and I know there's nothing we can do about it, but I mean, there's literally gonna go from a 10-year project to a 45-year project, and I just don't know how it's actually even possible for us to complete this project.
Well, I think
Because they haven't indicated that there is any extra money available, it's just, no, we're gonna call the project back.
well, the problem is right now, the federal government hasn't tabled their budget, your worship. And that's what's holding back all the new ISA announcements. So once that budget is tabled, then those taps will open for the flow of the money. But we're dealing with a project that was approved under the old ISIP, which they will to get us, so shovels in the ground this year. There will be money flowing to get us moving on the project.
We maybe reach out to Henley again,
But like I said, the whole thing.
like aggressively, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I just,
Unfortunately, the construction costs have just gone so stupid.
but we need to, but I mean, I'm just saying as far as like advocating for ourselves, like we're gonna need some more money, just so you know, a
I
lot.
don't think we're the only ones. though.
No, it's-
It's a universal. cost
Squeaky wheel,
of
that's all I'm
everything.
saying.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's universal increased in cost and that will universally increase funding. I mean, that's not always gonna increase funding. I understand that. And I bet you were out, like you're saying, this project will end up being longer than originally planned. But what do you do? If you want your infrastructure redone. My only thing, like I've mentioned before, is I don't want a road dug up.
Yeah.
A water line put in. And that's
Yeah.
it for the year, you know, it's gotta
But
be
they have to
a
dig it up again next.
section of water sewer road. Water sewer road.
Or water sewer. Next, you make sure everything's good, come back next year, do the cap the road.
Well, the road, yeah, and that's where the project will, depending on, you know, it's based on the chip crew coming in, but. I think it's beneficial for to have that year after it's done, so we're not putting chip seal on something that's gonna settle out. And cause us more problem in the long run, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's fine, it's just that process.
Sorry, I just was kind of behind that other statement about,
CAO Lockwood's report, so.
I do think we should have something to Henley.
Okay.
You know,
and it's not just us, like your worship, I had CAO meetings on Friday. And it's every one of the communities are in the same boat right now.
Yeah.
Prices have gone up, we're all sitting with ISIP projects that are. In limbo because waiting on Ottawa to approve those things.
Mhm.
But Yukon government's been nonstop contact with the feds on it. The
Yeah.
feds understand where we are and they're in the same boat. They can't open that tap, which they know was there until Prime Minister has his budget done. And unfortunately for a lot of Southern Canada, they can put shovels in the ground 10 months of the year where we're limited to 3 or 4.
Right.
So, so that was that one. We're working, starting to get the streets stripped down and everything for coming the spring,
Mhm.
even though we're into
Minus
the end of
two.
the first week of March, and instead of +3, we're sitting at -39. So things are moving ahead, but very fortunate. We did steam Tintina Way again today as a preventative measure, but it's only the second time this winter that we've actually done it, and yeah, so. Then we used the new truck, worked phenomenal. So. And otherwise, we're moving ahead because the new projection system for Northern Lights Center was shipped last week. And they're gonna, flooring is going in on the week of the 13th. So the seats are being removed today and will be finished being removed out of there tomorrow. And then be ready for flooring to go down. And the camera install people are gonna be here on the 22nd of March for install. And with training starting on the 29th or 30th, somewhere in there.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to see that rolling ahead.
Yep.
And I think that's it. I'll leave the rest for question period because there's a lot more coming up here.
Sounds good. Okay, jump into the beef. Bylaw 2023-01 being the 2023 O&M budget. All this is for our information. There's no readings of this committee of the whole, but if there's discussion to be had.
Your worship, I'll just say for the record that there will be an amendment coming to the bylaw itself.
Okay.
Capturing that we are using our CMG money for operational needs. And it was something that I stumbled across that has never been done here that I could find, but it's a requirement under the act that we actually specify how much of our CMG we're using for operational. The act states that 50% of the CMG is supposed to go to capital. And unfortunately, anything above that 50%, there needs to be defined in the budget stating that it will be used for O&M.
So you found that in a CMG definition, is that where?
Yeah, I found it under, there's actually an act that actually specifies it. So we caught that at time, Tiffany's done the amendment, which will come forward at the next meeting. Okay. And so, yeah, so that was the only thing I had on that.
Sorry, that was 50% has to be spent on capital.
Yes, of your CMG or go to reserves.
Which hasn't been happening.
And has not been happening.
So is that-
We were, what's that?
Is that what, does that have anything to do with this transfer from own funds?
No, that has nothing to do with that.
We're just projecting deficit for this year? Is that what that
Well,
is?
yeah, because you have not, council has not projected that we want a tax increase. So we have to pay for stuff. For the little bit of difference, we need to move money from our savings account to make a balanced budget.
So CMG 50% on capital, and then what's the other 50% Ken?
Well, change. You could use it for operations, but that's just under the act.
Oh, okay.
We're allowed to use it for other stuff. It just has to be stated in the budget.
But given the fact that like, isn't 75% of our total budget CMG and our O&M is like pretty much all of our budget. So it just becomes a shell game really, because then you just stick it in your reserves and pull it out of your reserves. So it's really robbing Peter to pay Paul.
It's just the way the act is written, so we have to make sure we're in compliance.
Technical.
Yes, it's a technical. Sure.
And you said that was the municipal finance act?
No, it's I can't remember the exact title of it. I can send it to you. Here with me, I'll find it here.
Is there any other questions for the O&M budget?
Anyway, the reason I was just asking about the transfer of own funds is because it's highlighted, and also last year, it looks like we also did the same thing, but then we transferred it out again. Or am I reading that incorrectly?
Last year, but you approved a budget. We forecasted that we would need to move 159,443 from reserves into funding for
In order to balance.
the balance, or
Right.
yeah, and we ended up not needing to move that money.
And then that's what this line is down here as us, but moving it back essentially, is that what that is?
Which
Or
line?
there's like 157,000 transfer to capital.
Yeah, so that's going to capital to cover the shortfall in capital.
Why are some of these things highlighted, Ken?
Because they're changes.
Okay, thank you.
So that legislation is. Yeah.
Municipal Finance and Community Grants Act.
Yes. And I just got it open as well.
I just stumbled upon that, okay.
I was doing, well, because I'm not now on the CMG working group. So
I see,
when I was researching for my CMG meeting, I come across it.
I see, okay.
So I'm frozen.
Budget. Okay. I guess, you know, if we don't have a whole lot of, is there discussion around the O&M? Anybody?
I asked my questions already.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I guess, I don't know when we have, forgot when we have a town hall scheduled.
That 15th year. Sure.
Thank you.
It got changed.
From the 9th, right?
Which is next Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll discuss it then, I guess, more.
Yeah, we'll get, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay, so we'll move right along then.
Make a motion to accept bylaw 20.
No, it's not a motion, just for discussion.
It's a town meeting.
we gotta,
Oh, perfect.
we gotta take it to town hall.
We start following the rules.
Number 8, bylaw 2302 being the 2023 capital budget.
I did have a question about this, actually. I had a question about the street lighting. Is that carryover from the previous year? Because no, so this is for the lighting on the Campbell Highway.
This
Right?
This is a carryover from last year, your worship.
Okay,
Because gas tax money, we're not allowed to roll over every year to year. If we have to budget, if we haven't spent it, we have to budget, we'll put it into next year's budget according to our auditors.
okay,
If it's our own funds or other types of money, that is like, agreements through different governments, like so the Canada money and stuff. We don't have to roll that over into to the following year's budget. Once it's budgeted, it's there for me to spend.
okay.
But gas tax, because it is a goofy anomaly, if we don't spend it, we have to put it back into the next year's budget to show it again. For even though it was spending that was approved and I'm allowed to spend it, I have to show it on the budget here.
So sorry, I don't think that was my actual question, but thank you for clarifying that. I think my actual question on that was, did not YG get funds to cover the cost of the entire project? Like we were no longer required to chip in that 250, I thought.
They did, but when I met with his worship, we talked to that we would prefer to leave it in there until we actually
Until we know. Okay,
what's going on.
okay,
Because it's better to have it there than have to come back and do 3 more readings.
okay.
Budget.
But that's still a conversation that's happening, like YG still
Yes.
hopefully plans to cover it. But okay,
Yeah, and that was through federal funding that was announced that MP Hanley actually did a formal announcement on that,
Mhm.
but until we get clarity as to what our share for that 1 kilometer is.
Yeah.
We decided to leave it in here.
And then my other,
And that's still going ahead, right?
Yes, it was formally announced under their budgets.
Yeah, they did some survey stuff in the fall.
It's in this year's budget.
my only other question on this was about protective services. It says wildland turnouts, and I don't know what that is, but have we replaced all of the equipment now? Because weren't we gonna do so many
Yeah.
sets of like turnout gear per year?
The turnout gear has been redone.
We've completed all of it?
Yes,
Oh.
we completed, but also keep in mind that in 7 years, we have to start that cycle again.
Right,
In here, wildland turnout is fire protection stuff for grass fires and that type of stuff. So it's hot, they're not like doing a structural fire with their other gear on. It's lighter protective equipment.
oh, and I'm sorry, I do have one more question. I thought you said that you were putting the fire truck in for this year.
The fire truck is in for this year and I'll
Am I
explain
just
that.
not looking in the right spot, maybe?
No, it's there. It's under replacement pumper.
Oh, I am looking the wrong spot, sorry. Okay.
So it's there. It's in for approval this year, but being it's gas tax, we're projecting on spending it in 2025, but I need approval from council to put that out for tender because it's a 3-year build time for that truck.
Right, okay, I just remember you saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's
okay.
why the funds are forecast coming out in 2025, because this is a 3-year capital budget, right?
Right,
So by you guys approving it this year, I can put the tender out for the build and we'll get delivery in.
Oh, it's not colored. That's sorry. That's what was throwing me off. I'm like, where is it? Okay, got you. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all for me. Thanks. Anyone else?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay,
No, good thing.
Councillor Kett,
I'm good.
this too will be in our town hall meeting.
It will.
All right.
Yeah, I just see the only other, the trail upgrades for 2025.
Yeah.
750 and 250,
Not for 2024 motion.
2024?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they're in there because of the fact that, that planning is gonna take a year.
Okay.
Right, over the summer to get everything sorted out.
Yeah.
Which would allow us to put tenders out if council and the community decides that's what they want to do. That it would roll out for 2024 construction.
And that's what we did with Jordan.
No, this is what we did with Heidi. Remember
Oh, yeah, okay,
at the last town hall meeting?
right, yes.
And so she's working on another report to come back for council with recommendations. Based on the town hall meeting stuff.
Yeah.
And other LFN and whoever else she spoke to.
Okay.
But she provided us with a class D estimate that it was gonna, for those two projects, it'd be close to $1 million. Which is all funding that's available under active transportation fund. So, and it's 100% stackable.
Beautiful.
I guess I do have a question. Sorry, when we look at Northern Light Center renovations and we say NORCAN, so with that, we're just putting in there,
Can't
Look-
quite hear you, Danita.
sorry?
I can't hear you.
Sorry, so when we look at Northern Light Center renovations and we put in here NORCAN, because I know they're paying for that 742,000.
Yes.
We still put that in there though, because like have,
Because any money we spend, we have to actually account for it on the books.
okay,
So that's why Canmore is in there.
And then
they're paying for it.
They're paying for it.
Okay.
And
so
if-
they're colored certain
If
things.
you look at the top, it'll
Yeah.
show you, at the very top, it shows you where our revenue is coming from, the different funding pots in that first top section. And Canmore is listed there, showing, giving us the 742,910. So it's money in, we're showing the revenue up top and the spending down below.
Okay, I just didn't understand the fact that they were paying for it, so
Yeah.
it's not our money, so why would it be here?
But
That's
we're
just what
still-
I was wondering.
we're, Still executing those funds and doing the tenders, so
Okay,
it's money they've given to us to spend.
right, okay.
No notes in mine. Okay, thanks, Ken. And then I'm auction funding carryover is as blatant as it is.
Blatant. It isn't.
Well, it's auction money from
From our-
previous vehicles.
Our fleet, our assets that we sold off.
Okay. Just to buy more equipment.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're recycling, instead of having stuff sitting in the yard, we're recycling it.
Why did you choose to put that in the capital purchases, just out of curiosity?
Which is that?
'Cause isn't it like? Is it something? Is it, you're selling old equipment?
Yep.
And then you're buying new equipment. I guess it's technically capital, but it's also operating
Well, it's,
money
yeah,
because.
it could go anywhere you want, but if we put it into the O&M, then we're still transferring money from the O&M budget or reserves over to here.
Okay.
And some of these things, we don't have reserves for, reserve accounts that the spending would qualify for.
Okay. Also,
Right, because
there's
we only
additional
have
stuff.
3 reserve accounts, right? One's
Yep.
Northern Lights, one's environmental, and I can't remember the third off the top of my head.
So it's environmental cap-
No, it's
there's
Emergency, no.
no.
Um,
Anyways,
Is there any-
but it doesn't, a purchase of buckets and forks for a skid steer don't qualify under the definition of those reserve accounts.
Okay. I see. Okay, thank you. All right, carry on. Everybody good?
Yeah,
Number 9, 2023-03 fees and charges bylaw amendment. We just finished this one.
Were you looking for a motion on this tonight, or we're just gonna talk about it and then? Oh, okay,
This is just for discussion, your worship.
Okay.
And this was an anomaly that was noticed after the bylaw went through, because remember, council wanted the breakdown of fees with taxes and stuff. Well, there was a few charges, or a few of our charges which are billed differently, which GST was on top of, not included in. So these ones are to catch the ones. So the way, with the reading of the last bylaw, we were actually, the way it was figured with the taxes, we're charging less, so we're making less money. So we cut our own rates. So this is to rectify that, so it's back to where they were.
Okay. Comments or questions?
I don't have any questions. I think the admin report is pretty straightforward and I'm ready to pass this at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
I concur.
Number 10, draft cemetery bylaw.
I'm frustrated. Have we responded?
We have not, your worship, because we just received this and I could not respond because I hadn't got direction from the council.
I'm kind of frustrated with this as well, because we have put out there multiple times that we want to join with them, speak with them, and it's much easier to work together if you're actually in the same room, looking at the same document and kind of dissecting it. And I feel that we have approached them multiple times. And I know Tiffany, you yourself have sent multiple letters, and we still are at a place where we are just going through conversation through documentation, as opposed to actually just sitting down and working together. And I guess that's where I was coming from, like, who's hosting the meetings? Maybe we could then that's a way that we could, a backdoor we could get in to sort of create some kind of relationship with LFN. And so it's just hard when you have a document that we are reaching out to them, we're asking for their feedback, and yes, they give it to us, but they also give it to us quite late, and then
Requesting significant.
they're wanting all these different things, and yet not once in here did they ever talk about any kind of monetary, like, contribution to be able to support the graveyard, which I feel that, you know, absolutely, the graveyard is for everybody. Somebody needs to maintain the graveyard. Somebody needs to have some kind of control of the graveyard, but yet then we need to work together. We're asking them for their feedback, well, then work with us as well on the back end of it as well, as opposed to just the document. And that's where I feel that strongly, that I'm happy with having their input. I'm happy with having our signage, you know, reflect Casca language, but I just feel strongly that we need to work directly together. And I just don't, like, that's not happening. Because they don't provide any monetary.
What would your suggestion be at this point to do then, Danina? Do you want to continue to reach out for a working group to push this, to get this done? Or do you want to get this done and, you know, create policies around it? Or do you want to stop all process? You know, like, because I think we've done our due diligence. We've done what we can do. We've done the work we need to do, and we have to somewhat at some point feel confident that we can make this done.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm saying I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
As well with this document, because I feel that it's kind of, we're getting it late in the game when we're trying to actually finalize this.
Yeah.
And we have had our town meeting, which there was First Nations representation there, and they did, and every time we mentioned anything, it was said to us, did you consult the First Nations?
Yeah.
Did you consult the First Nations? Every time we tried to move, and we have, and that's where I was asking the RCMP, who's hosting the meetings? Because if he's the one hosting it, then he can invite whoever he wants. And I'm trying to go, like I said, go through that back door of saying, if you're the one hosting the meeting, could you please invite us as well? So that they can see that there's some value in us being there. And that's the first sort of step. And us sort of like gaining some momentum here and trying to work together. Because I know a lot of the other municipalities, they are working with the First Nations, and we are trying, and we have tried, and yes, we, you know, and so this, we get a letter, But it would just be really nice if we could actually work together, and maybe on this we can't.
So that's the question.
That's the thing.
So at what point do we carry on and where do you guys feel we're at? And do we respond to this and carry on? Do we stop? What do you want to do?
Personally, when I was reading this, I was looking at it and it read like a university research paper. Which is great to show how various statutes and different things from all around the world can tie into anything that you're trying to prove. But then I looked at it and said, okay, well, what specifically is needed here? And even in the 5 points near the end there that say to reflect that we live in a shared territory, this and that, we could have, it's the town of Watson Lake. It's not just like, it's the, so number 3 and number 4 here, where it says add clauses in sections that recognize and implement the meaningful Liard First Nation government roles in the use, administration, and governance of the churches. Like, do you really need that? I mean, that one I would kind of say, well, you guys don't, this isn't your baby. But number 4 though, where it says add a section that refers to and protects exercise of Kaska ceremonies and ways of being. Well, great. Tell us what you need. Don't just say we need something for ceremony. Say, do you need a fire pit? Do you need a space that's 20 by 20? Do you need something that's enclosed? Do you need something with a roof? Do you need power? Do you need Wi-Fi? Probably not Wi-Fi, but
I see where you're coming from.
but you know what I mean? Like, don't just say like you need something that protects things. Like
We're asking for, this is the collaboration we're asking for.
what do you need?
Councilor Hancher.
I think we should carry on and look at implementing some of their wants at a later date and maybe have staff look at the cost of those changes. But I'm ready, I think, to move on, at least at this point.
And then some of this does kind of feel like needling in a way.
Yeah.
Versus constructive.
Is council
Collaboration.
in agreement of that?
Well, I think carry on, just because then you can, like, even when you write back to them in response, like, just we can create policies
Or we,
around
I mean, it's annoying.
what they want, sort of.
Yeah.
Or what their idea is, at least, and talk about it, some sort of, because I know we left a lot of their tradition out because we didn't know.
But that's what Thomas is saying, is
Yeah.
give us specifics.
No, that's right. That's right.
Your worship, and it's not hard to add in like what they're talking about in point 1.
Yeah.
Because the town is in Kaska territory. So that's an easy fix, but something that from administration side, I don't think they're taking consideration. They're not looking at the plan as well for the development of the renovations at the cemetery.
Yeah.
Because the fact that there in that plan, as you all know, there was areas for ceremonial fire pit, and there was all that stuff which was geared towards Kaska culture was put in there, but they're not linking the two together, right?
I think it's obviously annoying to have to open a bylaw and go through all the readings and stuff like that, but it's not impossible. So I think down the road, once we actually figure out what those specifics are, we can revisit it again, but for the sake of moving on from something we've been working on for over a year, let's go.
I agree.
We have to be confident in what we're doing and we can adapt.
Well, and your worship, it from administration, and some of the stuff they're asking for makes it really hard because it is the town cemetery. We're ultimately on the hook for everything that goes on in there. LFN saying that they want roles in the use, administration, and governance of the cemetery without having any ownership of it.
Yeah.
And then they make a comment about before they allow any future expansion. Well, it's a town-owned property with a lot that we can actually expand without their permission. But we need to be able to provide a service to the community and their citizens, which right now, the longer this goes on, we cannot do.
I would also like to see a response to this letter, basically outlining all those things though.
Outlining what.
So it's not
Like just all the things that you just said,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not just ignoring it, but going through and being like, hey, this is. This is why, and then, yeah, we're in agreement on some of these things, but we need specifics so that we can actually implement them. But in the meantime, we're passing it.
Agreed, and I agree with that. We need to recognize that, the letter, that we have acknowledged the letter and that we have made consolations to what they've requested in the fashion that we can. And I agree, Cam, I would thought the same thing, that we have in our plan area for them to have, like smudging or whatever, that's already in the plan. So only looking at the bylaw in its whole.
Just send that with it too.
I think, like,
No, but also you can just have a copy of the actual cemetery plan, right? Because then they would be able to see right there. There's so many of the things that they've asked here are done.
I think at the end of the day, we can respond to this letter and we can be confident in our bylaw. We've gone through fine tooth comb and we've had lots of input from non-elephant administration, you know, like it's just, this is coming from an elephant administration. We've had input from members of the community. We
Yeah.
can be confident of that. And we can also say that we will continue to work on our bylaw to accommodate. And that should be the end of it.
Yep.
Because it's been long enough and we will endeavor to do our best.
Yes.
A lot of the feedback has come from LFN citizens, so I mean, it's
And
fine.
we can have confidence in that.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Right.
Good. Okay, and we will work on a response to. I think it's a response to LFN, or is it a response to Travis Stewart?
To the letter, whoever
It's a
wrote it.
letter coming from the Larry First Nation
And
Council Office.
their First Nation
Hmm.
And
plans,
CC to Minister Boston as well.
Well, we'll CC Monson in our response.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
okay. All right. Fun. Next is AYC resolutions.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, we, as you all know, we have the AYC AGM coming up, and every year AYC endeavors to collect, you know, as many viable options as possible, but I think usually around 3 resolutions to pass as a board and as an organization and put forward to government for action. So we, in talking with Cam and in talking with the, I think, City of Dawson, we have come up with I think, a good idea. So we are proposing that the municipality sponsor an AYC resolution around EMS services or lack thereof in the communities. There are still times when Watson Lake and other communities are being left without service at all, and the ambulance is still being left at the airport for the medevac team when they get called for just a basic ambulance call. Other times, our volunteer firefighters are being called to assist with EMS calls, and we are not being compensated for their time at all. A resolution to address inadequate scheduling and lack of coverage and the possibility of the private sector taking over if YG is unable to provide an acceptable level of service is kind of what we're thinking. So just open for comments on that. Because it's affecting not just our community, but also City of Dawson and probably other places as well. So I think it's one that I think the other communities and the rest of AYC could get behind easily and yeah, would hopefully do some good. Unless anybody has any other, and also if you have any other ideas for a possible resolution, I'm happy to hear that as well.
Are there any privatized ambulances services in Canada?
Oh, your worship, other jurisdictions are strictly run by privatized entities.
Really?
Saskatchewan is a prime example.
I
Yes.
have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I mean, it's an option, you know?
Thing.
Yeah,
Collect the insurance. I think it's a great one. You know, we've talked about it lots. We've been trying to make some headway on that. And if the AYC can get behind it, we might actually get some answers to it.
hopefully.
Because it is, I think it is a territory-wide problem. It's not us. I mean, we're probably worse. Because we have so much traffic. We have the second largest population. We have the most, you know.
Like the highest call volume per capita.
Yeah.
Your worship, Mayor Kendrick actually did an interview with CBC last week about the concerns with their ambulance coverage. EMS provided documentation to CBC, and Gerard Din, their director of youth, had conversation. Yes. Did an interview with CBC as well, admitting that they only had 89% coverage in Dawson in January. but they provided stats saying that Watson Lake had 100% coverage in January, which I'm not arguing about, but conveniently didn't provide the stats for September, October, November, December when we didn't, right? So it's a shell game, but it's going on everywhere. And in Din's interview, he actually said that to help cover in Dawson, they would pull EMS from either Whitehorse or Watson Lake to fill vacancies in Dawson. Well, we know they can't staff our positions here, so why are they pulling somebody from here to go there? So anyways, we'll probably be reaching out, trying to get an interview from your worship in regards to that as well, so.
Get some more details on it, but yes, I would definitely.
So
I missed that opportunity last week. I think it was
Friday.
do we need a motion or anything like for us to move forward with?
Your worship, I
We're
think
accepting this.
you would need a motion for something to be presented on behalf of the municipality to go into USC.
Okay,
So if we come up with a resolution that we could provide for our next regular council meeting.
Yeah.
Something.
so we know for a fact that it probably has to be in by the beginning of April because they have to be out to the communities by the 23rd of April.
Okay, so we can do it
Like
at
the
our next regular meeting and have an actual resolution.
Sorry, you're talking in March, not?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
How do you word resolution?
So there is a thing that went out from
I
AY.
have to look at that a
There's
little.
a form template. Yeah, there's a
Can you
template.
work on that, Councillor Hunt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there is a template, but I just wondered how the wording would go within that. Do you know what I mean? That's just all I was wondering.
There is a lot.
What that would look like.
Make it specific.
Yeah, and there'll be many revisions. And I can happily share it with you. Okay,
Great.
that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Rec Advisory Committee. Committee.
Yeah.
Still, I have a question.
So the Recreation Advisory Committee met last week. We had a special intake meeting to go over the remaining funds. In the end, we had $11,521 to fund. We wound up giving, as you can read, 1,500 to the Leard Golf Clubs Association. The Signpost Seniors received some money for dartboards and chairs. The Watson Lake Outdoor Bonspiel Association applied for $3,000 for a snow blower. And Watson Lake Minor Hockey received money for gear and an mostly hockey gear and in-territory hockey camp. There was one due to the first four and the fact that previously the one application for the ninja training was denied because we'd already used up all the money. In addition to, we had already granted $4,000 plus the shipping. We covered extra before on the ninja training thing. So they had already met, they'd already received the maximum. Plus there's some, it was the letter said like, if there's funds left over that it's not a great need, it would be nice. It was a want, not a need. Whereas we felt, the committee felt the other ones were needs rather than wants. So that's how the decision ultimately took place. We also further talked about the various policies within our the lottery application and how it should be changed. And the lists are there. It goes from 20 cents a kilometer to 30 cents a kilometer, which, as you know, for a government rate is still a little low. But they can also, they can stack their funding with other funding from a different pot in Lotteries Yukon to get 60 cents. So if we change it from 20 to 30, they can help them get there. In addition to, we just need to change our policy, not a bylaw or anything like that, just change one of our policies that deal or just change. We need council approval to change the fact to go retroactive for 3 months, and also the intake dates need to be adjusted so that we can meet the lotteries Yukon reporting deadlines, which have been altered, and these changes also reflect a better intake for the lotteries committee, which is based on the spring. So the first one would be May 5th, which allows for a bunch of summer activities, and the next one being September 5th, which allows for winter type activities, and the third one being January 5th, to encompass what's left. I believe that's pretty much it. And so in the next meeting, I think, unless we could actually make motions to deal with these policies, but just making you aware that these are what the Recreation Advisory Committee would like to see happen with regards to lottery funding in the future. That's
Thank
all.
you for all of that.
Thanks, Councillor Slager. Missed a chunk of it, but I got briefed earlier, so. And we can create those motions for our next regular meeting, or do you need it sooner than that? Okay.
So.
Okay.
That's it.
Sounds good.
Great. Community Lottery Fund applications. Is that fallen? Is that what you stepped into that one without me?
Yeah. So, do we need a motion? Yeah, I think we need to give up the officially, I know this is a Cal meeting. It would be the first time we made a motion at a Cal.
I'll make a motion to approve all the community lottery fund applications in the amount of
Right there.
$11,521.17. For the session take.
Councillor Ansel, thank you, Councillor Kett. Any more questions or comments?
No,
All
thanks.
in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, Councillor Open Forum.
Nothing from me.
Thank you, Councillor Slager. Thank you, Councillor Burris. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah. AYC was Saturday. And Lauren and I sat in an AYC meeting. The Premier's address.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry, the Premier's address, the term of office for our municipal council has been accepted for 4 years, so that won't affect us. It'll affect the next council, next term. Talked about housing, lot development, the cost in the community is definitely cheaper than Whitehorse. There is definitely an access of funds is harder to get to build, to buy a lot, kind of thing, or to get them. They're trying to get more government positions in communities. They would like to have an increased minister presence at AYC meetings. And so what his thought was to have education, health, and tourism, and they just kind of rotate through. Talked about forest fire season and fire smart, and that everyone should just be ready. They also have a contingency fund of 15 million. Minister Clark presented, he's highways and infrastructure, and they're going to be 3 schools, 2 in Whitehorse, 1 in Burr Wash. They're looking at the Motor Vehicle Act to update it. They're doing putting solar panels up to replace diesel generators at highway stations. And they're going to be stationing a lot of electric stations along the Alaska Highway. Humane Society also presented, I guess they have 200 to 300 intakes annually of all kinds of books. They're doing some improvements with their adoption processes, with increased infection and prevention and control procedures. They're changing their vaccination and deworming policy and having more increased transparency regarding their medical decisions. They're looking for support with increased funding from YG. I guess 70% of their funding is fundraising and would like to have AYC support this. And so Tesla suggested that that might be one of the resolutions as support for just a home. So that has to do with discharge planning from hospital to home. So it's patient orientated. It's through teaching, involving partners, and discharge, post-discharge follow-up. They talked about Arctic Inspiration Prize, which is a northern funding for project ideas that bring change to communities to better the north. AYC puts money in to support this, but they're looking for municipalities to potentially contribute to the fund. Executive Director report, they're preparing for the AGM in May. And then they have created an awards policy, and they've also created an employment administrative and benefit policy within the PYC office. Did I miss anything, anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a long day, so we got it done. A lot of information.
When was this again?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Mhm.
Good for you guys.
Mhm.
Zoom, by Zoom, so yeah, those long meetings by Zoom are never fun. But
I have a few things.
Okay, Councilor Conform, go ahead.
Okay, so while we were at AYC, one of the presentations that we received was from Councillor Murray from the city of Whitehorse regarding the Arctic Inspiration Prize. The Arctic Inspiration Prize is the largest annual prize in Canada. By celebrating and providing seed funding to northern teams with innovative project ideas, the AIP supports northerners in bringing initiatives to life that bring about the changes they want to see in their communities. The Arctic Inspiration Prize is by the North for the North and is a community of people and groups, including Indigenous organizations, academia, governments, non-governmental organizations, industry, philanthropy, media, art and arts and culture organizations who share a common goal to recognize Northern innovation and excellence and encourage teamwork for the betterment of life in Canada's North. So I got that from the website. So we were asked to bring this to council just because the city of Whitehorse makes a large donation to this fund every year. And they were thinking that maybe all of the municipalities could chip in something and they would chip in a little bit less going forward, just because they're trying to watch, be a little bit more financially aware. I don't know, that's a word for it, but so just wanted, they're looking for donations, basically. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention and see what the thought is on that.
They can use our rec center in kind.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the exact number. I think the city of Whitehorse donates something like $10,000 a year. So I think they're looking to scale that back a bit and are hoping that the other municipalities can chip in to, I don't know if they're looking to just make it up to 10,000 again, or if they're looking, I'm not sure exactly what the number was, but I did say that I would bring it forward.
I was under the impression that AIP is sponsored as an NGO by the government of Canada.
There's, according to the presentation, that there's funding from all sources,
Yeah,
but northern communities and stuff also see money into it as well.
yeah. So there's, tons of partners and co-owners and ambassadors. Anyway, if you guys want to think about it, why don't you do that? I just wanted to bring that forward because we were asked to.
Okay.
there's also a lot of people in the Yukon that have benefited.
Yeah, they benefit from that, so thank you.
Not like it's like, it's not like the money is being outsourced outside of the Yukon.
Yeah, so they have a list here actually of all of the groups that have won in the Yukon, and there's like at least one or two every single year. For the most part, there is every year one prize of $1 million for one team, $500,000 each for up to 4 teams, and then $100,000 each for up to 7 youth teams. And so I believe that the only one the Yukon hasn't seen is the $1 million prize. So there's been a lot of monies from this fund that come back to Yukon. So something to keep in mind.
Lots of like everything.
This year, Kiana Lutz was part of the group that was there to receive the award in Ottawa this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, so did they get it? Did they get awarded?
They did get some.
Oh, good. No, but that's good. She was telling me she was going there, but I didn't know what award they were going for.
My next thing is another support thing. So we also had a presentation from the Humane Society on Saturday, Maybacker Animal Shelter and the Humane Society. They are looking for some support in a couple of ways. I mean, I think one of the big, Cam, you can help me out here a little bit, sorry. One of the main things was they were looking for some sort of service a contract with municipality, for example, where we would hypothetically pay them X amount of dollars, for the year. And however, whatever that looks like, but then they would have to take all our dogs. like no questions asked, they'd have to take all the dogs. Because right now, I think we're in a position where sometimes they can't take the dogs because of their own limitations within their organization. They can't always help us out. And as you know, Yarn has closed down. Cheryl is no longer taking those animals, so we're gonna run into a problem here. So that was one of the things that we were kind of talking about. The other thing is, I think that they're also looking for just like a letter of support to the government, just basically attesting to how valuable of service it is. Just because I think they're trying to hopefully get some funding from government as well.
Your worship, it really flows into the Animal Protection Act that Dr. Van Cook presented to council on. Really, the mandate is in their wheelhouse, but Maybacker has been taking an astronomical amount of dogs, even from us since Yarn closed. In fact, I'm taking 2 more there tomorrow that they're actually got a staff member that's going to stay late to meet me to get the dogs. So it is a benefit to us, but it's a fine line, right? Because it's really YG's responsibility under the new Animal Protection Act, but we also need to support them so we don't lose the option of someplace for our dogs to go, because if Maybacker wasn't taking our dogs right now, we'd have probably, I don't know, 20 some dogs we'd still be feeding in the pound right now.
So what kind of service contract are they looking for? Are they looking for money? Are they looking for a place to use? Are they looking
No,
for
it would be,
people? Are they
it would be like for us, like a user agreement with them.
It's
But
monetary.
it would be something that we'd have to I'd have to discuss more with them to see what they're looking at.
Okay.
But it was a topic to bring forward tonight based on that presentation that they did on Saturday.
Something to
Should we
think about.
include this as a line item under the budget? Can we sneak it into the budget yet? Under bylaw,
Well, it was one of the things that
It would
actually.
be in bylaw expense, that's for sure.
But it was.
rather than like a council PR is what I'm thinking.
Something.
But it was one of the things that actually Cheslin had brought forward as like potentially a suggestion for a resolution. So I mean, if that's something then they were looking at, you know, AYC putting pressure on the government to be able to support, you know, provide support, right? That was what they were looking for, so.
And not only that, but the city of Whitehorse is gonna have a big impact on them, right? Because right now they just take all their animals to Maybacker where don't have any of their own facilities. So really, imagine if we're dealing with this amount of dogs, what Whitehorse would be dealing with, right?
Should be a grander solution, I think.
Well, in other jurisdictions, they actually, the Humane Society is actually on contract like to the territory or to a state, like in Texas, it's the Humane Society that runs all their animal protection stuff from enforcement to capture to everything, right? They actually have peace officer status down there.
Bigger.
Yeah, bigger things, right? But here, you know, we need somebody in the territory, unfortunately, right? So
It's gotta be a similar situation.
exactly, so that it's really, the onus, like I said, the onus is on YG to, under their Animal Protection Act, come into an agreement, because when they presented us, they talked about maybe having to do agreements with municipalities so they could have a pound space
Location.
as a staging area, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for bringing all this to our attention.
One more.
Of course.
So myself, Cam and Tiffany met with Shelley and David from AYC this afternoon regarding the AYC AGM, just to update each other on the progress of that. And one of the things that we talked about is some things that we may need to pay for. So for example, there's some things that I would like for us to contribute to the swag bags. We also need to talk about the cost of the steak dinner that we would be hosting on the Saturday night, and potentially some entertainment for Saturday night as well. And then also I'm wondering if you guys have any ideas for donations, because we need to come up with a few things for the auction. So I guess we need to know how much we're comfortable giving admin permission to spend on that type of stuff. Was that Yeah,
Do we have funding for that laid out already? Like, how does that work?
It would come under council PR expenses.
it's kind of hard to know without knowing how much is all the stakes gonna cost, you know, it's hard. Is there any way to get,
Fence?
Well, probably.
ballpark from you guys? Yeah. Like. I mean, for a crazy number if there is 10,000, crazy.
That's all of our PR budget.
No, we have a second one.
$10,000 for the entire budget for food for a meal?
No, but I think I'm just.
Sorry, I'm including in the donations and the swag things as well. I don't know. I honestly don't know how much.
Well, I thought we had one item picked out for AYC, hosting the AYC expenses, like, because we were supposed to host for like, what, last 4 years?
Yeah.
Something like that, so this isn't a surprise.
No, we didn't put a separate budget because it was gonna come out of your PR, your budget council PR line. Right?
So you want to use the whole PR line for.
Don't we have a second one that you said?
Do we haven't, how much money?
Community relations, we're gonna need some of the community relations.
Which is also 10,000,
Funny.
20? 20 or 10?
I'm just throwing a number out there. It doesn't have to be that number. Was just
You're
No, by the time you,
probably looking at.
counter offer.
Sounds about reasonable. I mean, $140 a person, $50 a person.
How many people were at the last?
Yeah,
320,
so you're talking.
ultimately, maybe a few more.
it's 6 by my math.
Let's see, donations.
There was a couple things that we want to purchase to put in the bags and whatnot, some of which, will be. Should say it, okay, so we were looking at these like stainless steel water bottles, for example, with our like town logo on it. 120 of which would go into the, swag bags, and then the rest that would be potentially sold at the Northern Cider Shop.
That's fine.
But that's, I think we were looking at probably close to 2,000 for those. That's ballpark. Obviously, we haven't decided on a vendor, and we're just like very quickly looking at that today, but
You're looking for an answer today or can we discuss?
no, I don't think so. We just want to, just put it out there and let you know that those are the discussions that are being had, and those are the decisions that we're gonna be needing
Okay,
soon,
sounds good.
because we are gonna need to like order stuff. Obviously.
House, yeah. Okay.
And we also need suggestions for donations as well, so on that.
Okay.
I think a couple maybe, but. whatever.
If there's a timely situation that you need swag, municipal swag, I would suggest that maybe we can get some for the Northern Light Center well in advance. And that we'd have it for that occasion,
Everything's cheaper, more bulky buy.
yeah, and if we buy it.
Yeah.
Down.
So that's why,
That's, we were looking at the
That's-
250 order minimum, like.
Yeah, that's right.
That's for the very.
But what all are you looking at putting in
I
the
would-
bag
we're
bags?
still discussing that, but that was just one item for sure that I know it's gonna be.
So that we can put it on others like that. I would suggest that.
So AYC is obviously putting in some things like they do the mug usually, and they have a couple other items that they're gonna put in, and they're also going to give us some money. Whatever's left in their budget for the bags after they purchase their things.
Because they have sponsors
Mhm.
that have sponsored.
There was a couple of pictures up here. It was like.
Do we donate them?
Well, I don't know what it pre-renovation. No, we can put them on a t-shirt.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It was kind of like,
But if you actually go to Home Hardware, the Historical Society has some of those shirts that are still sitting on the shelf there for sale.
really?
Yeah.
That picture?
Oh, the historical one where the old and new at the Signpost Forest or at the hangar.
Check it out.
Was there anything else, Lauren, you wanted to add to that? We can
Nope,
discuss later.
That's all right now. Maybe we can be prepared to decide at the next.
If we get a
March meeting.
amount, then we can
Yeah.
have a better idea. It's just, I don't wanna,
For sure.
okay, Okay,
That is fine.
anything else for Counselor Open Forum?
Oh,
One last thing. Go for it.
mine's really quick. We need to do the registration forms for the AYC AGM. Perfect. That's all.
That's-
I forget more, get some more water for the fridge and a new treasure board.
Go to the board.
We still have a couple things on the agenda to go through, so. Including gallery open forum. If we're done with Counselor Open Forum?
If she has anything.
I just have one question.
Okay, Counselor Paquette?
So when we had the cryo peak come through, LNG Solutions, my question was that if we're gonna be opening Francis Ave, is there any capacity then to be putting in? If we're thinking of having any kind of gas, like, would there be the capacity to put that in or anything, or no? That just,
It gets getting ahead of ourselves, I think, on a lot of.
well, just, you know, like,
That's-
yeah, you know,
I think we're-
it's a cool idea, that's why I was just.
Yeah.
like, You know,
It's different scope, different time.
Yeah, we just want to. Unfortunately, it'd be massive expense.
okay, no, I was just thinking, you know, ground's open. You know what I mean, so.
Okay. Counselor Open Forum, anything else? 1, 2, 3, okay, done. So next we're to gallery open forum. We have a huge gallery today, so I'll try and speed through this.
PT.
PT,
No, yes, filter.
Patty McLeod, are you there? You're just on the line.
PT.
Weren't you in the? Didn't you sit all day, Patty? No, you gotta
Yeah,
sit-
sorry, I was trying to figure out the technology here to unmute myself.
I will say, Patty,
Ah.
that sorry, I just wanted to comment, if I may. That of all the Zoom meetings I've been on, you're the only one who's yet to use the camera feature.
Well, there's reasons for that.
Okay,
Oh,
go ahead. Do you have questions, comments about the meeting?
I don't have any questions, and obviously I'm happy to hear that there's some movement on the lots, although, you know, I'm a little bit guarded about it.
You mean by
simply
that?
because of well, I'm not. I'm hoping that it goes forward, but you know, given the reluctance and the, you know, on the government
Believe it when you
part
see it.
to talk about the money and what happens if there's not enough, and at what point. I mean, I thought it was a bit of a weird question to ask you what your cutoff was.
I agree.
Like, so I know that there's questions being asked of the government already about lot prices because it's affecting all of rural Yukon. So I was listening to your conversation about the Arctic Inspiration Prize and how we're being asked to subsidize this millionaire club. And I kind of, you know, as a taxpayer, when we're taking money out of savings to balance the budget, I would say no, that we shouldn't be doing that. That's my only comment on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm probably going to miss the town hall meeting, but so I was listening to the discussion on AYC, and I couldn't quite hear what there was a comment about the dinner, and I just wondered what that was. Are who's like AYC is paying for the dinner? Are they looking for something from the town?
Yeah.
No, well, every year AYC hosts the main dinner gala, and the communities always host one supper every AGM. So it doesn't matter if it's us, Haines Junction, Faro, Dawson. There's always one night that the community is responsible for the meal as part of their hosting.
And the MLA is responsible for the wine, so get ready.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with that. I mean, I think I would be prepared to sponsor the wine for a dinner, if that helps the town.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
The other thing is I don't know if they're doing a silent auction, but certainly I'm willing to donate to that as well.
I think we already had you written down for that as well. But thank you for
Oh.
confirming that.
How forward thinking of you.
Okay,
And that's about all. I was listening to the discussion on the cemetery bylaw, and I agree with the direction the town is taking for sure. So, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
That's it.
Thanks for tuning in.
Betty,
All right, we do actually have an in-camera, so.
Make a motion to go on camera.
Second.
On favor. Carry.
Patty.
Night, Patty.
Night,
Yeah,
night.
good night.
Nope. Don't want a motion to put on the camera.
Oh, now do it. Now do it.
I'll give you a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you,
I'm on
Councilor
the camera.
Paquette.
A second.
Thank you, Councilor Slater. All in favor. Carried.